So now this is just me basically showing you what it would look like if you do it the proper way with a with open. Okay, so you can have a look at that on the, and just remember now, because you're using the with, all of this needs to stay indentated until the end. So just add practice with that as well. Okay, so now what I want to do is, so this is actually exercise 3, but it is based on exercise 1. Remember, exercise 1 said that we needed to trim the adapter sequence at the start off, and then we needed to write the whole sequence, or write each of them to one file but on a separate line. So what we normally do as bioinformaticists is we normally extract data. Let's say we've got 20 VCF files in a folder or a directory. What we normally do is we read in VCF file number 1, we do something to it, then we print out the results to a new file, then we read in VCF2, do something to it, and print that to a new file. We don't usually print all our results to one file. So we want to be able, we need to know how to, or sometimes we even read in one file, but you get different results from that file. So let's say we take the VCF file again, which contains SNPs, exons, insertions, deletions, whatever. And we want to read in the VCF file, print the SNPs to one file called snips.txt, print our insertions to another file called insertions.txt, and our deletions to another file called deletions.txt. So we need to know how to, for example, read in files and print them to different file names and create those file names on the fly. But now here, we're reading in one file, and whereas with, for example, our previous example with the VCF files, it's very easy to just give it a name, because we can make the name respond to the VCF file that we read in. For example, if it's participants 1's VCF file, which is the input file, we can then say the output file is going to be equal to participant 1 output.txt. But here we only have one file that we've read in, and so it's a little, we can't just output it to an intuitive file name, because firstly the file name doesn't exist, so we need to create it. So we're going to see how we can loop through a file and then create our own file names as we go along. So what I've done here is, again, I've opened it the old-fashioned and the not so good way, but I just didn't want to complicate it with a with open now. So you've opened your input file again, right, which is the input.txt file, and we stored it in this variable named input file. Now, just ignore this first line for now. So I'm now going through this file for line.txt, and I'm doing exactly the same that we did there. I'm stripping it, and I'm reading from position 15, and I'm storing that in new line. But now I want to be able to name the file name. So I've got a whole lot of different lines. Let's say I don't even know how many lines are in there, right? So I could go, let's say there's 100 lines in there. I could go to my desktop and create files called output file 1, output file 2, for example, and create 100 of that. But why not let the system do it for me? So what I did here is exactly the same as we did in the previous example where we looped, but we need to start what is known as an increment, okay? So I've done here, line number is equal to 0. It could start from anything, but I'm going to make it equal to 0 so that the next one can be equal to 1. And you'll see now why. So what I'm saying is, once the for loop is initialized, and it prints my first input line, or it stores my first input line with adapter trimmed off in this variable name called new line, it's going to then take this variable name called line number, which contains 0 at the moment, and it's going to go to that line number, add 1. Now there's another way to look at it. Sometimes you will see something like this, that's just line number plus equal to 1. That is the same as this. This entire line can be written as just that as well. So now this line number holds number 1. Why do I want to do that? Because I want to create a file name. So I'm going to say the first time it goes around, add 1 to that. Then create a file name from this 1. And I'm going to say the string file and underscore plus this 1, but this 1 is an integer, so I'm converting it to a string. So basically, if I now, let me just close this and show you. If I now print what I've just created, you will see now, okay, this is looping around, so it's printing it every time, but it's going to go line 1, it's going to see that I'm not done yet because there's still lines in this input.txt file. And we can see from the number of file names that there are 5 lines. So it goes around and it prints exactly, I said, take the string file underscore and add this number to it, and it's going to do that over and over again till it's done. So there's my file names created. But now I need to open this file name now, which I've created as for writing, and I'm storing it in out file. Now remember, this is opening 5 files. And this is very different to what we did before, because before we could just open the output file over here, but that was because, or underneath this one. That is only because we could open it all the way at the start because all of them were going into the same file name. But now we can't do that. Now we need to open it for every line that we are looping through. So we read the line, then we create the file name for it as well. Then we print what we need to in there, then we read a new line, do what we need to that line, create a number 2, create a file name called file underscore 2, open that file name, and then, like I said, it does what it goes and instructs all the way here to the end. I just said outline is equal to new line. You don't have to. You could have just, straight up printed new line. You could have just said out file.write new line, because that's everything you needed. And remember here, you don't need to add a new line because you're basically just printing 1 line. You could, if you wanted to, if you wanna stick to convention, and at the beginning just practice to remember what to do. But because we're just printing 1 line, which is the first line, the first time around it's line 1, and we're printing that to file 1. Then we do file 2, and we're printing line 2 to file 2. And it's going to do that over and over again. Follow these instructions, write it until this is done, and then it closes your appropriate files. Okay, so if we then look at my desktop, I really hope you can see it. Actually, this is not going to print to my desktop because I didn't specify to print it to my desktop. So it's going to print to my, where I'm running this from. Okay, I hope it's showing. So as you can see, it's got the file 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which I've just created. Now you can also add .txt. It's probably neater when you create the file name, but you can see it's got, if you have a look at what was in our adapter trim sequence, it's got this in there, in file 1, and then let's take file 4 and see if it has line 4 in it. Line 4 is that. The ACT ending in the TA, and then you've got the ACT ending in the TA. Okay, so that's how you create, one way to create file names on the fly. And remember, this one was a little bit difficult because there wasn't really a way in which we could create a file name other than us making up stuff ourselves.